Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Search Engine Journal webinar. It's yet another rainy day here in West Virginia, and we're so excited to have you all here with us. Today, we are joined by Michael Johnson of Page One Power. He's going to be sharing with us some creative ways to create linkable content. Whether you're an experienced link builder or just getting started, it's important to know it's all about the right content. After all, content is still king. In today's presentation, Michael is going to show you how to identify audiences for linkable content, how to provide value, and how to create different kinds of content for different kinds of link opportunities, because it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. My name's Heather Campbell, and I'll be your moderator today. Michael, thanks for being with us. Can you tell us a little bit about you and Page One Power before we get into some housekeeping tips?
For sure. Thanks so much, Heather. So I'm Michael Johnson. I'm the Partnerships Development Manager at Page One Power. So I oversee a lot of our partner relationships as well as the onboarding of all new clients. Page One Power is an organic link building and content creation agency. So we help our clients create the content that they need to earn the best links possible. And then from there, we've got a team of writers and researchers, all US based, that outreach and build connections with good target sites that can then help our clients to earn quality organic backlinks.
Fantastic. So just a couple housekeeping tips, and then we're going to turn it all over to Michael because this is a great presentation, I assure you all. So if during this training you have any questions or comments, please put them in the questions box at the bottom of your screen. As you're learning and taking in this information, ask for further clarification. You know, there's a good chance that you're not the only one thinking about it. We're going to do a quick poll at the beginning and another one at the end. So, you know, your participation in there helps keep our engagement score high, and adding those questions just keeps it even higher. So make sure that you engage with us and Michael during this presentation. That's what it's all about, is really it's about you. So we'll have a Q&A during or at the end of the presentation, and we'll do our best throughout to link to any resources in the chat. But if we miss one, please use the questions box to ask. And then after the webinar, please stick around for a short survey. It doesn't take any more than 5 minutes. And it really helps us gauge how we can make SEJ webinars better for you. And lastly, you will absolutely receive this full recording after the training later today, so watch your inbox for that. So with that, we're going to kick off the first poll, and then we'll give it over to Michael. So make sure everybody's awake for the start of this. So does your company currently try to earn backlinks? And so we'll give this a minute just since people are just rolling in here, Michael, and then we'll close this and take a look at those results. So we got about 62% of people voting. Give you guys another couple seconds here. So far, Michael, we're winning with no, but we want to. So we got 44% there. So
that's great.
awesome.
Those folks are in the right place.
All right. So there you go. So we got 43% saying no, they want to, and 40% say yeah, they're doing it, but they're struggling. So this is definitely the right place for you all to be. So there you go, Michael. With that, it's all yours. Let's get into it.
All right, let's go for it. Well, thank you all so much for attending the webinar today and learning more about linkable content. Really, the idea behind this webinar is I talk to hundreds of brands every year within my position at the company, and I hear their challenges, I hear what they're struggling with, and people who want to try to earn good quality backlinks. And so often, people think of link building as this very outreach-centric activity, and it is. But often where people view outreach as their problem, outreach isn't the problem. It's usually the events that lead up to that outreach that causes a failure in link building. It's often a lack of good linkable content that is engaging audiences. So I wanted this webinar today was to talk about how to create linkable content so that you can have a good foundation and base to build upon in your link building efforts. So some of the stuff that we want to cover is first, why do link building efforts fail so often? Why is link building so hard, right? Next, we're going to talk about shifting the paradigm through which we view link building from a metrics first view to a relevancy first view. This is something that might violate some of your expectations when it comes to judging the quality of a link, but it's something that we really should work on as an agency or as a industry in changing our minds about. Next is the types of linkable content. So I'll show you a few examples of kinds of content that we create here at Page One Power that we use to get links for our clients. We'll talk about how to identify audiences and topics for link building. We'll have some real world examples of how to do that. And then also how to find good target pages for your link building. Then the last thing that we'll talk about is how does this link building fit within the greater context of your SEO and content strategy. So first of all, what makes link building so hard? And really the answer, it's pretty simple. It involves another person. Every other part of your SEO can usually be handled within yourself or your organization, right? If you want to add some content to your website, you can do that. If you want to change some on-page elements, you can usually handle that and take care of that. But if you want to get links, it no longer is just you and your team. It's now another person with another audience with their own cares and desires. So we have to keep that in mind throughout our link building process, that there are other people involved here. It's not just us and our motives. It's about tapping in to their motives. The other thing that makes link building so hard, because there's another person involved, is that webmasters are savvier than ever about the value of links. People have been requesting links ever since they found out it was part of Google's algorithm. And so webmasters are used to getting these requests. They know the value of a link. So unless you've got something of really good value to provide to their audience, you're gonna have a hard time earning links. And that's really why creating linkable content is so important, because it's gonna create those opportunities. All right, so next, let's talk about relevancy first and why that should be one of your main things that you look at when judging the quality of a website. Now, traditionally, people have looked at domain authority as how they measure the quality of a site. They'll put a arbitrary number. They'll say DA50 and above is all that we want for links. And that's kind of how we view it. And the reason why is this kind of springs from about 10 years ago. And for those of you who don't remember or haven't been in the SEO industry that long, there used to be that Google toolbar page rank where you could see where Google ranked a website and what page rank they assigned to it. It was on a scale of 0 to 10. And people would just say, okay, we're gonna sell PR7 social bookmarking links. These are garbage links, but they had PR, so people wanted to buy them. And then Google decided to take that away from SEOs, and so we could no longer see it. Rather than taking that as a hint from Google about what we should be looking at for quality, we instead just jump to the next metric, which would be DA or DR in terms of how we measure websites. It's not to say that those aren't part of our equation for measuring the quality of a site, but just shouldn't be what we lead with. And that's why I contend we should lead with relevancy. And Google themselves seem to back this up. This was an interview with John Mueller earlier this year, where he was asked, does the total number of links help a website rank, or does that matter? And he spoke to one primary quality factor in his quote. He said, we try to understand what is relevant for a website, how much we should weigh these individual links. The total number of links doesn't matter at all. So really, relevancy is one of the key things that Google is looking at when measuring the quality of a link. And that's something here at Page One Power we've been preaching for almost a decade now, is relevancy first link building. So use relevancy as your core indicator for quality as you're going about doing your link building. And the reason why this is important is because relevancy can provide a tie between each step of your link building process. If you're using relevancy first, that will help you to know what kind of content you need to create. So you know, I want to try to get in touch with these kinds of audiences that are relevant. That's the kind of content I should create. Then when it comes time to do site finding to target sites, you now know who to target because of the piece of content that you created, what's relevant to that piece of content. And then when you come time for your outreach, you know what kind of value you can provide because it's going to be relevant to each step that had preceded it. So relevancy first is a way to create a sustainable system for link acquisition for your company. Again, people view links as this commodity that you go out and you buy them and you just get them. Links aren't just had, they're earned. And by shifting your viewpoint from thinking about how can I get the highest DA link possible every single time to instead thinking about how can I create a sustainable approach to consistently earning relevant quality backlinks for my site, you're gonna have a much more sustainable approach that will lead to long-term success for your brand. All right, so let's dive into some types of linkable content that our team here at Page One Power create for our clients. The first one is informational and educational articles. Now, what these are about 800 to 1,500 word long pieces that we create, and we use these to give our team citable information to reference within guest posts. So when we go write an article for a third-party publication, we have something of value to link to within our article. I'm on the contact at Page One Power email address, and you have no idea how many bad guest blog requests I get every single month. People asking for sponsored posts, people just trying to get a post on our site because they feel like they deserve it. So often we run into issues with guest posting or low quality guest posting because we aren't arming our posts with good resources and linking out to our site as a good resource within those articles. The other opportunity you could use this for would be like Haro link building, where you could, rather than just giving somebody a quote or a piece of information, giving them an entire article from your website and really showing your expertise and the breadth of knowledge that you have on a certain topic. So to show you a quick example of how this works, one of the main concepts we're going to talk a lot about when it comes to linkable content is that it is designed to create new opportunities to connect your brand with other relevant audiences on the web. So this was for a client that does cloud services for companies. So what we started thinking about for them was, okay, what if we wrote an article about cybersecurity and remote work? So what does that do? Now we're taking a little bit of a step outside of cloud security, but still very relevant to cloud services. And we're going to do cybersecurity. So we have tech websites that we can reach out to with this kind of a piece. We have cybersecurity related sites, IT websites, but then remote work, that adds an entire whole nother angle to it, right? Now we can find HR blogs, business blogs, even lifestyle blogs. A lot of people who are working remote, it's a lifestyle change. And so there's a whole different way that you can, or a whole different set of sites now that these guys can reach out to and be connected with because of the linkable content. So your linkable content should build connections. From there, in terms of how we included this in our article, we then wrote for a third-party publication. We wrote an article about cybersecurity and training your staff on it. And we were then able to mention with so many companies going remote recently, at which point we then link back to our article on our website. So again, this comes from thinking about the other person involved with your link. If for a editor at a website, we included a link back to the service page for our client, pointing back to their cloud services page, that link would get stripped so fast because they would immediately realize this link isn't providing value to my audience. It's a promotional play, and it's either they're gonna strip the link or they're gonna ask for payment for it. On the other hand, if we include a link back to an informational article, they are much more likely to let this live within the article because it's providing further insight and value to their audience. When their users click the link, it takes them to a page that they would expect to see as a source within the article that we wrote. So this is a great example of how you can use great linkable content to create better opportunities for you from a guest posting perspective. The other opportunity here was for a client that we had in the furniture industry. So same concept. If we went out trying to pitch a page that sells couches, we would get very few, if any, links to that kind of a page. So what we did was we then started thinking about, okay, what topics involved with design interact with other areas of life that we can use to expand our sphere of relevancy. So we talked about how your environment affects your mental health. Again, that's a good home decor, design related topic that also now brings in mental health themes. So we can now reach out to design, decor websites, mental health, wellness websites, and ultimately the link that we got for them, one of them that we got for them with this article was from a mental health related website. We talked about how a home environment can support your mental health, at which point we were able to link back to this article that speaks further to that topic and provides further value to the audience of the site we're working with. So again, the main points with that there, create pieces that speak to audiences that have blogs and publications dedicated to them that connect your brand with them and serve as that relevant tie between what you do and the audiences of those websites. The next one we're going to talk about is a linkable resource guide. And this is one that I think if this is a takeaway that you could start implementing really quickly for your company, this is a great one. Guest blogging can take some time to build up connections with publications and all that. But a linkable resource guide is something that you can right away start pitching out and trying to get resource page links with. So the idea behind these guides is usually we create a long form piece of content, well researched, very in depth, about 3,000 words long. and we find an audience that has a lot of resource pages dedicated to them, or a topic that has a lot of resource pages dedicated to them. And then we try to solve a problem for that audience that is relevant to the subject matter of our client's website. So a quick example of this was for a tutoring client that we had. We created a guide for supporting STEM education for students with disabilities. So right away, right, we've got two different audiences and topics that we can start reaching out to. We found that there were tons of resource pages dedicated to the STEM fields and lots of resource pages dedicated to students with disabilities. And these were the kinds of links we're able to get, and I'll just show you really quick so you can see what these look like. We found a resource page on University of Pittsburgh for women engineers. So by tapping into that STEM angle, we were able to get a link on this page. And just really quick to show you right there, boom, our client got a great link on this resource page. Here's one, and this is a great example of why to not get hung up on DA. If the client had come to us and said, I only want DA 40 plus, that's all I want, forget anything else, they would have missed out on a great link from a public school's website. You talk about a tutoring brand, what a good link for them looks like. This is about as relevant as it gets. It's from a legitimate organization, and even though it's not, you know, super high domain authority, this is a great link for them to have. This really speaks to the authority that they have in the education space, that they're getting these school district links. These are great. So got a solid link for them on that resource page. And then also because of the disabilities angle, we were able to get them a link on inclusion.com, which provides resources to folks with different disabilities. So great example of how a linkable resource guide created awesome resource page links for our client. And again, you'll get those heavy hitter, super authoritative links. Those are great, but also really good relevant links that go across the authority spectrum. Great, so now that we've seen a couple of examples of stuff we've worked on, I'm now gonna jump in and show you some clients that we don't work with, just a random site I found on the web that I thought would be cool to brainstorm some ideas for how they could create linkable content to set them up for success. So the company's called AlliedSVCS.com. And so if you want to check out that site, you can. They are a commercial roofing company, so B2B construction. You want to talk about an industry that doesn't sound like a lot of fun or that'd be very linkable, that's very niche, you know, that's it right there. So how can they go about creating opportunities for themselves? First, what I'd recommend doing is, and we're going to talk about first how they create a linkable article. So that first type of linkable content we talked about. The idea I came up with was building maintenance tips for business owners. And the reason why I like this angle is because we've got a defined audience. We've got business owners. That means there's tons of business blogs out there on the web that we could potentially target and try to write for and link back to this kind of an article from. And here's some that we've successfully written for in the past. Some good quality domains right there. So this piece enables that. Also, you think about the subject matter you can talk about within building maintenance. You can talk about accessibility. So again, that kind of disabilities angle could work there. You could talk about health, right? Asbestos, mold, those are cause health concerns for your teams at your company. So there's a health angle that you could tap into. There's a lot of audiences and topics that relate to business maintenance and business owners that this piece can create opportunities for. So again, the key takeaways for this one is connect your site with relevant opportunities, build those bridges of relevance between your site and those other URLs out there. Have it be a useful, valuable asset. Again, building maintenance tips for business owners, that can help them save money, help them create a better environment for their employees. There's real value in an article like that. And then last, promotional pages are a no-no. If we tried to link out to a page for their commercial roofing services, nobody would want to link to that. You'd have very few takers on that. So by creating a piece like this, they could be much more successful in consistently earning quality backlinks. All right, the next one is how to create a resource guide for this client. What kinds of topics or angles would work well for them? So again, we're sticking with Allied SVCS for this one. Commercial roofing, B2B construction, that's the industry. What they'll be tempted to do and what you might be tempted to do is to immediately think about your direct audience. So for them, let's create a big guide about commercial construction and everything there is to know about it. I'm gonna say don't do that because it's not expanding your audience and you're probably gonna have a limited runway in terms of the number of sites that you can target with that kind of a piece. So instead, I would say, let's do something about sustainable building, about green-friendly construction practices. Now you've tapped into a whole nother audience, that's relevant, and there's tons of resource pages on the web for green friendly enthusiasts and for people who care about the environment. And I found this pretty easily. So really quick, just to show you, I mean, these are examples of resource pages that I found. I found this one on Build San Antonio Green. So really good resource page with energy and green building links. That would be a good fit for that one. King County in Washington has a local green building resources and then green building in other municipalities and programs and organizations resource page. So good fit there. Ohio State University has a green buildings links page. And this is the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency has a similar resource page for green friendly links. So I found these by using Boolean operators. So what I typed in here was green building, and then I put in URL resources. So what I told Google is that I want to find pages that talk about green building and that have resources in its URL. So that way, Google will return me different resource pages that talk about green building. And just by doing that immediately, I found that there was appetite out there on the web and opportunity on the web for this kind of a resource. So one thing that you'll want to do is, as you're thinking about topics for a guide, is to see if there's opportunity for the subject that you're selecting, and doing a search like that can help you to know what kinds of resource pages exist for the topic that you're selecting. Luckily for this one, I found plenty of runway, and I think this could be a really successful resource for this client. So again, important takeaways: expand your audience. This piece, if they would have just focused on commercial construction, they would have been limited to the same group of sites they're always limited to. By taking a step out and going the sustainable route, they've now got a whole nother slew of websites that they can start reaching out to. And the cool thing about this is that it's replicable. After they've worked with this guide and expended those opportunities, find another topic, find another audience, create another piece for them, and find a whole nother suite of sites that you can start to reach out to. All right, so I know the question you're probably asking is, great, linkable content, but I need links to my product pages. I need increased rankings for my money keywords, because that's what the CMO or whoever in your organization is pushing on you. Well, let's talk about how these can help you, how creating this kind of a philosophy and approach, how you can still get results for the pages that matter to you and that matter higher up in the organization. And the answer really comes down to internal links. We have helped countless numbers of clients have success by building links to linkable assets on their website and still get results on their mid and bottom funnel pages on their site through internal linking. So the idea and the hope is that you've got all these different linkable content pieces helping you earn different kinds of links from different sources, and now you're internally linking these to your products and service pages, as well as maybe even more like mid-funnel informational pages, and you're doing that through your internal links. It's also just good practice in terms of showing Google what's important on your website. If there's a page that's integral to your business and it's not well internally linked within your website, you're showing Google that that page isn't important, that it's not an important part of your website. So pages that are important to you, if you want to show Google that they're important, you need to be internally linking to them and communicate that message. And building out linkable assets and internally linking those to those pages is a great way to do that, as well as a great way to funnel authority and link equity to those pages. So as a quick reminder, kind of step-by-step here of the main principles to draw out from this presentation: relevancy first. Use relevancy as your main indicator for determining what makes a good link for your brand. From there, think about human value. Make sure it's a site that gets traffic, that has an engaged audience, that's a legit organization. And then from there, if you want to throw some DA kind of as a way to measure kind of within those the highest quality opportunities, you can do that, but always lead with relevancy. Next, linkable content should expand your audience. It should create more opportunities for you. If all your content is about just what's really close to your brand and close to your niche, you're going to have a short runway. You're going to run out of opportunities, or you're going to be forced to stretch the relevancy as you're reaching out to other websites. So create linkable content that builds those connections for you. Make sure your linkable content provides value, that it actually gives helpful, valuable information to audiences on the web. Have a variety of linkable content. So I covered 2 today, which is informational, educational articles and guides. But you can use infographics, you can use calculators and tools. There's a variety of different kinds of content that you can create to help your website earn great links and earn links from different sources. A lot of agencies just do guest posting, and a lot of brands will rely on guest posting. You need to create a more diverse backlink profile, so you want different kinds of content to create those opportunities. Next, have your content solve a problem. If you solve problems for people, that immediately solves the value issue. So try to solve problems with your linkable assets. And then last, use internal linking to connect it with the important pages on your website to funnel that link equity to those core pages that you're hoping to influence. Thank you all so much. That's what I had for today for the initial presentation. If you want to reach out to me or get in touch with me, feel free to connect with me on Twitter. You can send me an email directly to ask questions, or connect with me on LinkedIn. I think we're going to be going to a Q&A here, so I'll turn it over to Heather, and we'll get that started.
Awesome. Great stuff as always, Michael. So yeah, we do have some questions, and I would definitely encourage anybody else, if you have questions, please get them in. We are absolutely going to get to as many as we can in the next 35 minutes. So for the first one, Raheel is asking for link building and how many oh, I'm sorry, you know what? We have a poll first. See?
Let's do it.
It wasn't in the deck. That's why. Hold on. Okay. So we got one more poll for you guys just before we get into the Q&A. So just real quick, just to let Page One Power let them know, are you interested in a free one-to-one linkable content consult? So Michael, while they're weighing in, what exactly is that consult made up of?
Just to make a quick plug for that, basically what we want to do is you send us some basic information about your website and your goals, and then for just for 30 minutes, it's not going to be a sales pitch or anything. I mean, actually, I'm going to be personally taking these on next week, so you'll be able to connect with me just like I did for that Allied SCVS website, help you come up with some linkable content ideas for your website so that you can earn quality, organic backlinks more consistently. So yeah, if you're interested in doing that, just click yes, and that'll signal to me that I should reach out to you and get some time set up to chat with you and help you come up with some ideas for linkable content.
Awesome. Yeah, so I mean, a little more time with Michael on that, I think that would be great. All right, so we're going to go ahead and close that poll so we can get into that. All right, let me pull up my sheet again. All right, so here's the first question from Raheel. For link building, in how many websites do I need to ask to publish my article or information? So it's a quantity question. Michael, what we're looking for is how many do we need?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I know for our team and for most link building activities, I mean, our average conversion rate for a campaign is between 6 to 10% for our conversion rate on links, which that is aided and helped with the fact that we have a lot of linkable content, that we use that as our core, way to attract links. So we have a higher conversion rate than the average site, but a lot of link building efforts have more like a 1 to 2% conversion rate. So immediately right there, that to have any success with link building, get any decent number of links, you have to have hundreds and hundreds of sites that you're going to outreach to and try to build connections with to get a decent number of links. So you're going to need to be able to pitch a lot of websites. And if you have linkable content, that can help to make that a little bit easier because your conversion rate will be higher. But yeah, I know for us, we're constantly reaching out to hundreds of sites for our clients all the time to earn links for them. So you're going to need a big runway of sites. In terms of the number of sites to pitch a single article to, I strongly recommend doing customized outreach for guest post opportunities. So research the website, see what topics get discussed there, see what their audience is passionate about, and then think about how your brand, your content, the assets that you have on your website can speak to and help that audience, and then make your pitch based on that. That way, it's not just saying, hey, can I get a generic post saying, hey, can I get a post on your sites? Instead, speaking to the value that you can provide to their audience. So that's what I recommend, is kind of creating unique ideas and angles for each site that you're trying to target.
I think that's a great way to look at it. So I had somebody reach out to me. This is the opposite way that you want to do it. Don't tell them their content is bad. I had somebody reach out and they were like, I read this post. It really wasn't a good post. And what would make it better was my link. And I was like, are you kidding me? Who is going to give you that link? So, it's all in the delivery, right?
A little bit of flattery is never a bad thing. That's why, yeah, if you research the site ahead of time, you can tell them like, hey, you guys, there's some great stuff in here. I love this article about this topic. I have something similar that I think would be also great for your audience. The other thing that made me laugh is I had somebody reach out to me just recently, and we had linked out to, as an example, one of our articles to a camping website. And then they reached out to us. It was a camping brand and said, hey, we see that you guys talk about camping on your website. Do you want to include a link to our camping website? And it was like, well, you obviously haven't looked at all at our website or our blog, because if you probably did a scraper that saw we linked to one of your competitors. If you had known that, you would know that we've only linked to one. It was a specific example in one article. So yeah, again, putting human eyes on the websites that you're reaching out to can help you send much more genuine quality outreach.
Yeah, 100%. So Ted is asking, he recognizes that this is a very broad question. What is the best play for securing partners for backlinking? Do you demonstrate expertise in your market, just leveraging, or do you leverage connections? So what's the best way, to get those partners for backlinks?
Yeah, I mean, so the first thing that I would look at doing in terms of like a partner is, it depends on how you want to make that phrase. The number one thing with partners, I never want your partnership to be based on payment, right? Hey, we're going to pay you guys and you're going to link to us consistently or anything like that. We don't want to violate webmaster guidelines. Your partnership should always be based on the value that your information can provide to their audience. So, one thing you could do is have somebody on your team or yourself within your organization, or if there's there's someone in your company that you ghostwrite for, however you want to do that, have them start to develop a portfolio, start to try to build connections and start to write for websites and do outreach. That way, as that person kind of builds up their reputation in that space, you get a good portfolio. Your outreach to new blog opportunities will be that much more powerful, and that can create more opportunities for you to become a writer for a variety of publications. So that's one thing I'd recommend doing to kind of build up those opportunities. The other thing is kind of more on that partnership angle, is to think about the partnerships that you have within your industry. If there's a brand that you work with consistently and you're good partners with them, and you provide value to each other, there's no problem in asking them for a link, to say like, hey, we work together a lot. Would you guys mind, linking to our site, in that we provide these kinds of services to you or help you in these ways. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I look at doing and building up those partnerships. But again, every partnership should always be based on value.
Yep, absolutely. So Nicholas has a question. I agree with the no promotional pages tip, but was wondering if you would recommend doing a small amount of promotion within your resource guide, such as mentioning or linking to one of your product pages to show what you offer.
Yeah, for sure. So we do that all the time. That's the practice I'm actually recommending, is to, within your article, having enough of a relevant tie between the audience and the subject matter you're writing about in your blog that you can internally link your guide back to your product pages. What you won't want to have it do, though, is lead your guide with a big call to action, or start off your guide with, here at Acme Industries, we're the best provider of that. And then, because then if you hit people with a promotional ploy right up front, they're going to view this as an advertorial article. Where on the other hand, if throughout your article, it's very informational, educational, but maybe you reference something related to the service that you offer. A quick example, and this is one that I can definitely share with you. This is one that we did for a client in the B2B software industry. So they offer an IT solution. So this guide that we created was for women to break into information technology. We link out to a variety of sources within this piece. And then if we scroll down here, it's about 3/4 of the way down, boom. Actually, it wasn't that piece. It was this one right here, MSP. So we link to this, what is an MSP, as well as to their remote monitoring and management page, which was one of their most important pages on their website. So we were able to include links to those pages in an informational manner within the article. So if you reference the service that you offer within the article without trying to be promotional about it, that can create an informational way for you then to include an internal link back to that page. So yeah, link back to your product pages, important pages on your site from these pieces. Just don't do it in a way that it's prominent, and promotional within the piece.
Yeah, that's good advice. So Adam is looking for your secret sauce, Michael. He's looking for you to show him your outreach email pitch and what success rates you get. I don't know if we're providing any resources after this call, but might be something to consider.
For sure. I don't have an example pulled up ready to go today, but I'm happy to share examples with anybody. So if you want to connect after the webinar, I'd be happy to either do the one-on-one consult with you and show you some examples of stuff that we've done. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the conversion rate, like I said, our typical conversion rate is between 6 to 10%. for our typical link building activity.
So Carrie is asking, what online tools are available to guide development of topics to write about?
Great question. So I know there was a tool called BuzzSumo that helps with topic ideas. Also, competitor research is a great way to come up with topics. There's some really good tools out there, whether it's Moz or SEMrush or Majestic SEO has this cool tool called ClickHunter, where you can see multiple sites, or sorry, see sites that are linking to multiple of your competitors. These are good angles to find link opportunities. But yeah, for topics, look at your competitors' websites. See what pages and topics on their websites are earning links consistently, and that can help you come up with ideas for linkable content pieces. And again, the other angle to think about is think about audiences who are underserved within certain industries, within certain spaces. Think about people who could use your help, who could use your expertise, and that you could create a piece for. And then from there, use those Boolean operators like I showed earlier to see if there are resource pages dedicated to that audience on the web. And that can help you know if that piece is worth creating a guide for.
Great. And we'll try to link to those. If we don't get it in this one, we will get it in the follow-up email to you all. So Cody is asking, loved the examples that you laid out, but curious if you have tips for outreach to websites to actually build these links. Seems like webmasters aren't too eager to answer outreach requests. So who at a company should they be reaching out to?
Great question. So one of the things that we highly recommend is trying to find like the editor of the page that you're trying to get a hold of. And there's a few different tools that you can use to find different contacts at a website. We use BuzzStream to organize a lot of our outreach, and they've got some settings within there, some tools within there that you can use to find contact info for people. Hunter.io is a really good tool as well to find contact information for people within an organization. If you can find somebody who might be a webmaster or in charge of the website that you can reach out to directly, that will almost always work better than just the contact, general contact form on the website. I know, and I'll tell you this much, if you try to do that to Page One Power, your contact form will go to me, who has very little control over what we link to on our website. So usually a general contact form will not get you to the right person. You'll have to pray that they connect you further down the line to the right person. So I would say use something like Hunter.io to find the contact info for different people at a website. Even use LinkedIn, right? If there's a website, you can go in there and try to, by job title, figure out who might be in charge of the webmaster of the site, who could be the person that I want to reach out to. And then by finding their profile on LinkedIn and then using Hunter.io to see what the typical email address is for that company, like the format, whether it's first dot last name or first initial last name, you can then try to re-engineer their email address and reach out to them.
Interesting. So on our podcast last week, we had BB Raven. So BB's a big link builder. And so she was saying that she was having success reaching out to companies through the contact form. So, I mean, it might be hit or miss. I mean, maybe it all depends. It might be worth a test.
Yeah, I mean, I know our conversion rates are higher when we don't go that route, but yeah, I mean, they can always give it a shot. If it's all you have and that's your last resort, then absolutely do it, because it's better to get something out there and have something in play than nothing at all. But that'd be interesting. I'd have to check that one out and see kind of what her best practices are for using that.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's see. Chrissy says, are recipe blogs a good source for food manufacturers?
Yes. Yeah, I think that's fantastic. It's a great way to step beyond what you would think. For food manufacturers, you probably maybe get hung up on B2B related stuff. Like we manufacture the food, we sell it to these outlets. These are our audience. When really, from a linkability perspective, food is the linkable angle. Health, wellness, all those topics. So recipe websites are very relevant to a food manufacturer, and reaching out to them and talking about maybe you have a recipe that your organization has created or that you're very familiar with, you can write about and submit to them and use that to get links. That is a great example of how to go one step beyond your core audience to find those spheres of relevancy that exist outside of that. So, I mean, that's a great idea.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of taking that next step. It's looking at that end goal, right? So, or the end, consumer of that product. So,
Yeah.
so
And again,
Rochelle,
if you think about Google, what they see with that link, they see food-related websites linking back to a food manufacturer. That is very relevant. That's very natural for those links to exist. So yeah, I love that.
yeah. So Beverly's asking, so she reaches out mostly to mothers to encourage family vacations at an all-inclusive resort. How can she expand her prospects?
So yeah, all-inclusive resort, right? So you right away, let's start thinking about what are the topics outside of our resort, because if we send like, hey, we want you to check out our resort, hear how great it is, people might not link to that because they'll view it as promotional. So instead, travel, right? Tourism, these are topics. So a guide about how to travel with children, something like that, an informational guide that provides resources to parents who are looking to do international travel with children, give them a checklist of what they need to prepare and be ready for, how to have a safe trip with your kids, that kind of a topic. Right away now you've got an informational value that you're providing. And I mean, again, we'll have to check, see if there's opportunity for that kind of a piece, but I assume there's lots of resource pages out on the web that would maybe want to link to something like that. So that's a good example of how you've got if you understand your industry, and then from there you think about a segment within that industry that could use some help and some information, that being parents who are really stressed about how to take their 3 kids on a trip somewhere, which is what I just did about a month ago, and it was a disaster. That'd be really helpful for some of those parents. So I know I'd like a piece like that as a parent, and that can give you some really good link opportunities.
100% for sure. I would have taken an article like that. So awesome. So let's see. Rocio is asking, how bad is syndicated content for link building?
Yeah, so syndicated content, I mean, ultimately, you don't count those as like the value of like an individual post on each site getting a link from, unique domains. I wouldn't recommend it as like your core way of earning links. If you want to use syndicated content as a way for branding and PR to get your brand out there and to do that, I think that's great. I just wouldn't rely on that as like a core link building tactic.
So another question that we have is, and we do have a lot of questions, Michael, there is no way we're getting to all of these today, by the way. And
We'll
this
do our
happens
best.
every time Page One Power comes. So
Yeah.
next time we have one with them, make sure you guys come. It's always good.
We're just here to stir the pot. And I think we did this last time. I'm happy to put together a video for any unanswered questions. I'll just make a video wrap up afterwards, and we'll send that out in our follow-up so that you guys can all get your questions answered.
I love it. I love it. It's fantastic. So just to say, if anybody said no, that they didn't want that consult with Michael after this, and you have changed your mind since listening to the Q&A, because he's dropped some really good stuff, when you take the survey, you can always change your mind then. So let's get to a few more of these, so while we still have some time. So Dominic asks a really good question. How do you get around the "we don't link to commercial sites" responses?
Yeah, great question. So we've gotten links for commercial clients on pages that say they don't link to commercial sites before. Honestly, there's no way that you can ever, make somebody link to your website. And if that is a very harsh stance that they take, and that they are not, regardless of whatever piece you have, then it is what it is. But really, your content is what's going to give you the best opportunity possible. So if you approach these companies as a commercial enterprise and try to get links that are promotional, then you're going to fall right into what that policy is made for, and they're probably going to reject it. On the other hand, if you reach out to them and the sole purpose of you reaching out is to promote a piece of content that speaks directly to their audience, that provides value and solves problems for their audience, and you can make a clear case for how your piece does that. Again, it's not going to work every time. Some people, that's a strict policy and they won't bend. But if your value prop is good enough, your content is good enough, it's providing enough value, that will give you the best opportunity possible to overcome that objection. It's not going to work every time, but it'll give you the best opportunity possible to overcome that. But yeah, it's been very funny. We've seen that notification before on sites, and still end up with a great link to our client's website from that resource page.
Awesome. It doesn't hurt to ask, right?
Yeah, exactly. The worst thing they can say is no. But if, again, by having something that's informational, educational in value, you'll grow your chances exponentially at maybe getting that link.
Yeah. So Darius has a great question. He's asking how you, as Page One Power, how do you all do your outreach? What channels do you use? Email, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, phone calls, etc. Which of the channels is most successful for you all?
Yeah, generally, I mean, email is the #1 channel that we use. I think that's pretty industry standard. But we've had things in the past where we've gotten creative for some links. I mean, if you want to, for example, for like guest posting, one of the best ways to build a relationship with an editor at a site is through social media, getting involved with them there. Also, just getting involved in the community of the website in general, commenting on articles, providing feedback to people who write on the site, showing that you're an active part of that community before making the ask to try to write for them. If you're somebody who is a known entity on that site that they see, participating there, they're much more likely to trust you as a member of their community rather than just a random person who showed up in their inbox. But yeah, I've had situations before where we've jumped on calls with people to get links. We've used social media before to get links. The more channels that you have to get in touch with somebody, to reach out to them, the greater your chances will be. Also, the greater chance that you can show them that you're a real person. If you just send them a boring template email 3 times and then disappear, they don't know if you were just a bot or if you were, whatever you were. But if you send them an email and then you connect with them on LinkedIn and then you tweet at them, they're gonna say, "Wow, this is like a real person who is trying to get in touch with me and communicate with me." So I think the more channels you have available to you, the better. Obviously, the go-to industry standard is generally email, but you want to pepper in some of those other angles. It's great to do.
Yeah. So Bunny has a great question. Is there such a thing as excessive linking, and how would you recognize and avoid it?
Excessive linking. So let's first talk about external linking, excessive linking. So if you are doing things the right way, which is creating, again, great content, manually outreaching, building relationships, and trying to get people to link back to that content, your ability to acquire links will generally align pretty naturally with the size of your brand and the resources that you have to do that with. So small brands that come to us with minimum budgets for link building, usually that budget will only enable us to get between 5, 7, 8 links per month, which is a very organic flow of links for a brand of that size. If a large enterprise company reaches out to us, generally the budgets and the resources they have available at that point will allow us to get much larger numbers of links. But again, it's all proportionate to the size of the business. So what I find is that if you have an organic, sound philosophy and approach to link building, generally your output will align well with the size of your company and the resources that you have available to where that would be natural. The other side of that coin that he maybe was asking about was excessive internal linking within articles on sites. Again, it's about user experience. I saw a tweet, I think it was Ross Hudgens, if I'm going to be shouting out at a competitor, but he had a good tweet that said a good SEO is a good UX consultant. And there's a lot of truth to that, where people get so worried about exactly how should I internally link or how should I do. Think about what's good for your users. Think about what helps them to best navigate your website, what best connects your article to areas of the site that it's relevant to. That's where I mentioned earlier, if you're able to organically and naturally mention a phrase that relates to your product or service within your article and you internally link to it, that's great. It doesn't mean you should link to every single product page and every single article. Absolutely not. It's about doing what fits well within your article and in the context of it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always about the user experience, right?
Yep.
So Brennan has a question. In this webinar, we discussed mostly reaching out to relevant blogs and resource pages. Are there any additional considerations or different considerations when you reach out to journalists?
Yeah, so we don't do a lot of journalist outreach at Page One Power, but again, when reaching out to journalists, the #1 thing that you've got to think about is what are they going to link to on my website and why? What is it going to fit within? What are their motivations? What are they trying to speak to within their audience in the article? So if you reach out to a journalist just asking them to link to your brand or to include you in an article, that's where you end up with a lot of those kind of sponsored journalists who are just gonna, you're gonna pay them money to include you in an article, which is something we don't mess with or do here at Page One Power. But you know, if you find a journalist who talks a lot about a specific topic, maybe you through Haro you find, you know, you find a request for a specific article that they're writing, and you've got a piece of information that will supplement that well. Again, it's just thinking about how can the resources on my website assist this person, provide value to them, and then in turn provide value to their audience. So when reaching out to journalists, that's what I'd probably maybe first of all want to find out is like what they're working on. What kind of topics are they trying to write about currently, and who are they trying to connect with? And that can help you then to know on your side what resources you can provide them rather than immediately approaching them with an ask for a link, because that's just going to resort back to a sponsor situation.
Yeah. So Gridden is asking, is relevancy and link outreach determined by the content created or your site's overall niche and the potential partner site's niche?
Yeah, both. Right. There are some opportunities for links that will exist just because of your niche and your industry. So, for example, we have worked with a brand. I'm trying to think of a really good specific example. We worked with a brand that sells metal detectors, right? And there are tons of hobbyist websites out there on the web that we're able to reach out to and get links from just because it's a hobby niche specific site and it fits well on those pages, and we're just able to get a link solely because of that connection. So yeah, there's those kind of niche specific links. And then there's also the angle of using your content to create new connections of relevancy. So, you know, again, going back to the example of our IT client that I showed you, I'll even just pull it up again just so you can see it. You would probably think that this site, because they offer remote monitoring and management cybersecurity solutions, they should only get links from cybersecurity type websites. That's pretty much what they're limited to. But if you create a guide for women to break into information technology, what happens now is you're not just getting links from cybersecurity sites. There are tons of resource pages out on the web, career resource pages for women, career pages for women in STEM or in tech or different industries like that. So, you know, we were able to reach out to, let me see if I can find it here. Yeah, this awesome Department of Computer Sciences resource page on Johns Hopkins, a page for women in computer science because of the guide that we created, and got them this link. They probably wouldn't have been able to get this link, there it is right there, unless they had this guide in place to enable that. So, so yeah, there are gonna be some opportunities that you can earn just based on the niche situation of your site and its relationship to other websites, but then also use the content that you create to develop and create new opportunities and expand your pipeline.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to look at it. All right, let's see. We have plenty more to get into. Michelle asks, how important is relevancy with local SEO links? Are geo or unrelated targets important, if not more important than relevancy?
Relevancy is very important for almost like super important for local companies. And here's why. There's two angles that this plays a role for local brands. Is one, when you're a local company, you have a local sphere that you can reach out to and try to get links from. So you have your local sphere of relevancy. One of the things I always give as advice to local brands is if you want to get local links, you need to provide value to your local community. Be involved in your community. Find charitable opportunities. Find ways to support people in your community. That will create some really good opportunities. One of the brands that we work with, they're a franchise organization. We were able to do just a huge unlinked mention campaign for them because they did a lot of charity work across all their different locations across the US, and it got mentioned in the press. And you know, writers don't always think to include a link. So we just followed up with all these opportunities that they'd created in these local areas through their charitable work, and just said, hey, thanks for mentioning our thing that we did recently. Would you just mind including a link back to our website so people can find the site? And most of the people were happy to include those links. The other thing to think about, and this is something I see a lot, is that because you're a local brand, you feel like your content should only speak to a local audience. So what this will look like is like if it's a dentist in Oklahoma City. This is a real life example. I had a client come to us and all the content on their site was like how to whiten your teeth in Oklahoma City, how to have healthy dental hygiene in Oklahoma City. They kept going on this local focus rather than creating more opportunities for them with their content. So one thing to think about is not just your local sphere of relevancy, have that portion of your link building activities, but also just think about your subject matter. What these guys could do to create more linkable opportunity is write general information about dental and oral health. And then from there, you can reach out to a variety of health blogs and websites and wellness sites out there and try to get links from those. So if they created just a general article about, tips for getting your kids to brush their teeth, that could then get links from parenting blogs, health and wellness blogs, all those kinds of sites. So think about both those angles, both the local and then just the subject matter, and have pieces that address those, exclusively from one another within your content strategy.
Yeah. Again, it's all about just expanding that content, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Andrea is asking, how low can you go with pages DA if the page is relevant? So if the content's relevant, but the domain authority maybe is a little on the lower side, she's looking for how low you can go on that DA authority.
I honestly don't think there's a limit on how low you can go. Again, it's assessing the overall quality of a site. Now, there's a lot of sites that will be like DA5 that, yeah, they're just not good websites. They're not very professional. They're DA5 for a reason. Nobody linked to that site because it's really not a good website. But on the other hand, just to give you an example, let's say we work with a pet related brand and we find hundreds of veterinarian clinics across the US. And some of these sites might be DA15, but these are official organizations that have expertise, that are vets, that know pets, that know the industry. The DA is low on these sites, but these are still good opportunities because of all the other factors, the relevancy factor, the fact that this is a legitimate organization, it's a source of authority, that it's a vet who's qualified to know what's good for pets, that make these good link opportunities. So I wouldn't get super hung up on the exact number of DA, but again, using it in your overall calculation for a site. And the reason why I mention this as well is because I've seen DA 60 and 70 websites that are horrific, that you should never get a link from, right? A lot of these are like kind of the guest blog mill sites where a client will say, hey, I've gotten these links in the past, what do you think about them? And you'll look at it and say, okay, the DA is nice. Then you click at it and you look at the content, and they're publishing, articles with links to payday loan sites and, all kinds of spammy stuff that immediately shows you this is not a good place to be, even if it has a high DA. So that's why, again, find sites that are relevant, that are legitimate, that serve a purpose outside of SEO, right? In a world without Google, would I still want this link? Should this link exist? And then use DA on the back end to then help you measure it. So obviously a resource page from a pet specific website that's a DA 70, that's probably a better link than the DA 15 site, but that's not to say that DA 15 link still isn't good and should be part of your backlink profile. Those are still valuable links. So that's why I don't recommend putting a hard limit on it, and instead using other qualitative factors to help you understand if it's a good link.
Awesome. So we have 2 minutes left. I don't know that we can get through any more. We'll do this one last question. So okay. This should be an easy one. So Natasha is asking, do you send link pitches under your own name on behalf of your client, or do you send it under an email from their name pretending to be the client?
Great question. So that'll often just depend on the link opportunity. If when it comes to like the writing opportunities, we will write under the writer's name and just have them outreach themselves to build a relationship with the publisher. For a lot of resource link or unlinked mentions, though, we will reach out with an @domain email address, because if you're trying to reach out to a publication to say like, hey, I saw you mentioned our brand, would you mind including a link to it? It's hard to be official with that kind of an outreach without the official domain email address. So certain link opportunities are helped out quite a bit by having that domain email address, but we do a little bit of both depending on what the opportunity is.
Awesome. So we got 30 seconds left. Michael, tell us one more time where to find Page One Power and yourself.
Yep, so you can find us at pageonepower.com, and really quick, I'll just pull these up so you've got these in front of you. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you have @mfjohnson89. If you want to email me, mjohnson@pageonepower.com, and at LinkedIn, it's linkedin.com/in/MichaelJohnsonP1P. And feel free to connect with me on either of those mediums. happy to chat, talk shop, and beyond. So yeah, that's how you can get a hold of me. And Page One Power, it's just pageonepower.com.
Awesome. So I know Cassidy put in the notes that she had already requested to connect with you on LinkedIn. So I imagine you'll have a few more of those coming through. Teresa asked if she was going to get the recording with the slides. Yes, Teresa, you will get the recording with the slides. We'll send that in a couple hours afterwards. So you all watch your inbox for that. So with that, that's all the time that we have. Michael, thank you again, and to Page One Power for being with us today. And until next time, we'll see you all later. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much, everybody.